If you speak a word of what I'm about to show you, you will be executed.
It's beautiful. It's the greatest encryption device in history. The Germans use it for all major communications.
Everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable.
Let me try, and we'll know for sure.
Mr. Turing, do you know how many have died because of Enigma?
No, I don't.
3. While we've been having this conversation.
Firstly, a question for you, Benedict. Presumably a role like this, playing Alan Turing, comes with a strong sense of responsibility, not just to do a good job as ever, but when you're telling the life or some of the life of someone who's been wronged, to put it lightly by history. I mean, there's an extra weight there, I assume.
I think so, and the sort of disparity between his importance and prevalence in our modern culture, as well as what he achieved in the 20th century, and the comparative lack of knowledge of the full span of his story in life. I mean, there's a fantastic film, film of the play, Breaking the Code, which I saw, and I think I was taught some variation of what went on at Bletchley Park, and his name was mentioned, but the idea of getting a broader story out there and a broader picture of him to a broader audience is obviously something that does bear a certain weight of importance. And yeah, it's his legacy. You know, this has been an extraordinary decade for him because of pardons, because of his centenary, because of exhibitions and books, and now this film. So it's part of a momentum, I hope, to have him at the forefront of the recognition he deserves as a scientist, as a father of the modern computer age, and a war hero, and a man who lived an uncompromising life in a time of disgusting discrimination, contextualized obviously by the fear of the Red Threat, but still without that's not an excuse for what happened to him. And to also try and, on a sort of more personal note, examine something that's not very well documented. I mean, physically, there's no medium of him. There's no, ironically, considering what he was about, there's no, maybe not because of the secrecy, but he was, there's no oral recording, there's no visual or audio recording of him. So there's a huge weight. Yes, it's a blank canvas to an extent, so you have a bit of freedom, but it's... yeah, you're toying with something you have nothing to bounce off with as a reflection.
Keira, but Benedict was saying that Alan Turing, despite his fame, there was very little documentation, little or no recordings of him. Joan Clark is obviously less well known, but were there sources you were able to draw on beyond Graham's script?
There was there's an interview that she gave, which Morton told me about, which is online. Which I mean, she was probably in her mid-70s, late 70s. So yes, I watched that, and certainly took, I think, that quality of sort of that quiet, sort of very nice, very sort of feminine sort of type person. I thought that was really interesting. I like the idea that, she was absolutely somebody who was sort of breaking boundaries in her own right, but she didn't go about it like a bull in a china shop. You sort of didn't see her coming, and I got that from the interviews that she gave, and also the sort of the great friendship and love that existed between her and Alan. You could really feel that in the interview that I saw. There was still, she was so protective of him, even talking about him. But I mean, relatively speaking, there's very little. Given how important she was, there's very little to go on.